Hello, movie buffs and philosophy enthusiasts. Welcome back to Movie Mosaic, your hub for deep dives into the hidden meanings behind the silver screen. I hope you're settled in with your favorite cup of coffee or tea, because today we're journeying back to 14th century feudal France. There's a film that has recently been shaking up the cinematic world with its profoundly controversial narrative. That film is The Last Duel. Now, don't let the title fool you. This isn't about a boxing match, but rather a life or death duel between two knights fighting for honor and dignity. Together, we'll ponder what honor, justice, and truth really meant in the context of feudal French society. We'll also look at how societal views on women played into the central conflict of this film. So make sure you stick around, get ready to have your mind opened up on this intellectual adventure. And if you're joining us for the first time today, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you won't miss out on our other intriguing discussions. Without further ado, let's begin our philosophical journey. Alright folks, let's kick things off with a quick introduction to The Last Duel. This isn't your average popcorn flick. It's a gripping tale set in the backdrop of 14th century France, where knights, nobles, and kings ruled the land. Directed by Ridley Scott and penned by Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, and Nicole Holofcener, already an impressive lineup, this film brings us face to face with the brutal reality of medieval times. The story revolves around two knights, Jean de Carrouges and Jacques Le Gris. They find themselves locked in conflict over a serious allegation made by Marguerite de Carrouges. So what is this movie really about? Well, it's not just about a duel or who wins it. Instead, it dives deep into questions of honor, justice, and truth as they were understood in those times. But don't worry, if you haven't seen the movie yet, our discussion will be more about these ideas than plot details. So even without watching the film beforehand, you can still join us on this thought-provoking journey. Now that we have our setting laid out, let's dive into the heart of feudal France. Alright, now that we've set the stage, let's take a closer look at the historical context of The Last Duel. This film is set in the 14th century, a time when feudalism was the norm and knights pledged their loyalty to lords and kings. But what does this mean? Well, in simple terms, feudalism was a system where everything, from land to people, was owned by nobles or kings. Knights like Jean de Carrouges and Jacques Le Gris would have been bound by oaths of loyalty to these higher powers. This system played a huge role in how justice was perceived and carried out. You see, back then there weren't any police or courts as we know them today. Instead, disputes were often settled through trials by combat, just like the duel between Jean de Carrouges and Jacques Le Gris. It's crucial to understand this backdrop because it sets up why our main characters make the choices they do throughout The Last Duel. It's not just about personal grudges or revenge, it's about societal norms of that time period. So keep this historical context in mind as we delve deeper into our discussion. It'll help us better understand why honor, justice, and truth took on such unique meanings during those times. Let's now delve into the concepts of honor and justice as they are portrayed in The Last Duel. Remember, we're at a time when personal honor was valued above almost everything else. It was a badge of one's character and reputation. In the context of our film, Jean de Carrouges felt his honor was tarnished when his wife Marguerite accused Jacques Le Gris of assaulting her. To him, this wasn't just about seeking justice for his wife, it was also about defending his own honor. Now let's talk about justice. Today we have courts and laws to determine what's fair and right, but back then, not so much. Justice often boiled down to who could win in combat, or who had more influence. So when Jean challenged Jacques to a duel, he wasn't just fighting for revenge or personal satisfaction. He was seeking what he believed to be justice in the only way society allowed him. Remember folks, these concepts may seem strange or even harsh by today's standards, but that's exactly why it's so important to understand them within their historical context. It helps us see how far we've come and how much our ideas of honor and justice have evolved over time. Now, let's wrap things up by looking at how The Last Duel connects to our lives today. You might be thinking, this is a story from the 14th century. What does it have to do with me? Well, you'd be surprised. Firstly, the themes of honor and justice in the movie are still relevant. We may not settle disputes through duels anymore, but we still grapple with what it means to be honorable and just in our society. Secondly, Marguerite's struggle for justice highlights issues that are sadly still present today. Women around the world continue to fight for their voices to be heard and believed when they speak out against injustice. Lastly, by watching films like The Last Duel, we can learn from history. It helps us understand where we've come from as a society and how far we've progressed, or in some cases, where we need more progress. So next time you watch this movie or any historical drama, don't just enjoy the plot or performances. Think about what lessons you can take away and apply them to your understanding of the world today. And that wraps up our discussion. I hope you found it interesting and insightful. Remember, folks, movies aren't just for entertainment. They can also teach us important lessons about life and society. Thanks for tuning in. Now let's talk about the art of storytelling in The Last Duel. This film doesn't just tell a story. It shows us how different perspectives can shape our understanding of truth. In the movie, we get to see the same events from 3 different viewpoints: James de Carrouges, Jacques Le Gris, and Marguerite de Carrouges. Each version is influenced by their own beliefs and biases. This makes us question, what is the real truth? This storytelling technique isn't just a clever film trick. It reflects real life. We all have our own perspectives that color our understanding of events. Sometimes we're so caught up in our own viewpoint that we forget others may see things differently. So next time you find yourself in a disagreement or misunderstanding, remember The Last Duel. Try to see things from the other person's perspective. You might be surprised at how it changes your understanding of the situation. And with that thought-provoking point, we conclude today's discussion. Remember, folks, movies aren't just for entertainment. They can also teach us important lessons about empathy and understanding. Thanks for tuning in.